Hello and welcome back to What's Your Geek, where I talk about what I'm passionate about, what you're passionate about, and what's more obsessive than cataloging over 4,000 pre-painted plastic miniatures in an Excel spreadsheet. Hey, welcome back everyone. I did have a little bit of a hiatus from this. Actually, I was trying to track down a particular miniature for this episode that I could not do without, but I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. Hey, I want to have an announcement. I am playing in a live stream Fate role-playing game through Gamerati's Twitch channel. It airs Mondays from 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can go to www.twitch.tv/GameratiTV. That's GAMERATI-TV. Anyway, it's been a lot of fun. We've had 5 episodes under our belt. It's every Monday, as I said. We're doing these Fate films where someone did a poster or a drawing, you know, and we're taking that as inspiration to create like a short film. So the first one we did had a 4-episode arc of Girl Gang. I played Jasmine. I was a tough best friend of Lizzie, the lead character. We were exploring a underground, like kind of like a X-Files type of theme is what I would say, but with some tough ass-kicking girls. Anyway, then this week we had a one-off sci-fi episode, just kind of a little bit of a goofy humor one, and following up, this coming Monday, we're going to have a little more serious one. I'm going to be playing the main character, but you have to tune in to get more information. Now, geekdom, the frontier of the imagination. These are the voyages of Robert Dorgan, his 2-year mission to explore 90 different shells of original DDM miniatures, to seek out lore and tangential information, to obsessively go where geeks live in their passions and their obsessions. I have 9 cases with 10 shelves each, a 2+ year journey, depending on how many weeks I miss, to go into geekdom where no one has gone before. My current count is 4,007 miniatures, 1,330 unique different miniatures. Coming up, it's going to be my most tightly themed shelf yet. My 6th shelf is composed almost entirely of undead. I'll be back in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hey, welcome back to What's Your Geek? Case 1, shelf 6, if I can speak today, has mostly only undead creatures. I thought it was all undead creatures, and as you'll see later in the show, I was slightly mistaken. But take a look, folks. There are some serious, let me try this, serious undead baddies here. I'm trying to get the best camera angle here. I am not a professional videographer, in case there was any doubt in anyone's mind. You know, I'm not going to talk about them, I just want to point out here's some cool looking flaming skeletons. There's an alternate paint, blue one. Got an interesting dude over here, large-sized skeleton of a non-human creature. Anyway, oh yeah, I got some dude back here. Skeleton on top of a skeletal warhorse. Yeah, anyway, that is a look at the undead. The first undead I'm going to talk about is the Devourer. This is really what I think a really, really cool miniature. Let me get in there close so you can see this dude has someone trapped inside their rib cage. I don't know if my camera's that great, but this is basically a screaming soul. It reminds me of, I think there's a painting, I can't think it comes to mind, but it's basically got like someone like that, right? So I think they did a really, really good job of capturing this dude. One thing that's interesting is my understanding is this undead creature first appeared. Here's the 3.5 D&D monster manual, and you can see he does have a little dude trapped in there. But you notice this dude is just like basically naked, right? I mean, it's an undead creature. And then this guy, they decided for some reason they needed to give him, you know, basically a loincloth, right? I mean, it's okay, but it almost feels like, oh, we don't want to offend anyone. But, I mean, what, does this thing have a penis you had to hide? I don't know. I mean, this guy obviously is not full frontal on, so maybe they... I don't know. I'm not going to go there. That's a different kind of show. But anyway, I really think this is a really cool miniature. What's interesting is the Devourer appeared in the first monster manual in 3rd edition, or 3.5. basically, anytime I talk about 3rd edition, I'm talking about 3.5. I didn't play 3rd edition. I only came in after 3.5 came out. And the Undead, the Devourer, also appears in the first monster manual. I wouldn't think it was that popular of a monster. It seems a little bit off the beaten path, but here it is in the 4th edition monster manual. You've got 3 versions, as they usually did. Starting at the top, we've got the Soul Spike Devourer. Then we've got the Spirit Devourer. And then we've got the Viscera Devourer. And I think the Spirit Devourer here is the actual one that the closest one to the 3rd edition one, and the one that I have the mini of. And you can see he's got the little person trapped in there. This guy just actually has the spirits of creatures. I don't think that's nearly as creepy or scary. And this dude, I think, just eats viscera. And then in the Vola's Guide, not in the 5th edition Monster Manual, but in Vola's Guide to Monsters, they pop the Devourer back in. He's got a little bit of a different look. You can see right there. A little more bony. And this, they clearly show this dude has no sexual organs, right? Full-on frontal. There's nothing going on, which I think that's probably true for all of them. So it's just funny that they give this guy, you know, basically a skirt. I don't know if it's maybe just an aesthetic thing, you know. I thought it would be too boring just to have this creature like this. But, you know, I think it would be probably cooler if he just, I mean, it's still a good mini, but I think, you know, ditch the skirt. Now, basically, the stick of this monster is it can fuel its unholy powers by basically sucking up a soul. I did find in an ecology article, so Dragon Magazine basically doesn't exist anymore. It's discontinued. It was a magazine for many years, mostly based on Dungeons and Dragons and D&D kind of stuff. And they would do these ecology articles where they really dive deep into different monsters. And basically, this whole book, Vola's Guide to Monsters, is a lot of it's an ecology articles on different monsters. But anyway, they had one that talked about the Undead Devourer. And it was first created in this ecology article by the Githyanki. The Githyanki are these sort of astral sea faring, maybe / kind of like pirate dudes, like humanoids, but distinctly non-human, kind of gray skin and hairless type of dudes. And they are ruled by this evil Lich Queen. And anyway, there was a dude who kind of rose up, this warlock sort of sorcerer dude rose up and tried to like rebel against her because basically the fate of Githyanki was to die in battle or to be devoured by Blackett, this Lich Queen. And anyway, he was unsuccessful. He fell into a trap, but then some mysterious thing happened and he came back as like the first devourer, and then he like resurrected or brought back his most devoted disciples, and some of them joined him, others kind of spread out, and through that process other devourers have now come into existence. Then in 4th edition they changed it to any kind of raving murderer who passed into the Shadowfell. So in 4th edition they brought out this version of basically I would say the negative material plane, but they tried to create a little different version of it. So the Shadowfell is like this you know, mere copy of the regular plane, the prime material plane of what the most adventures happen on. But it's sort of like a dark, shadowy, deathly, kind of dismal, dark, depressing sort of version of it. So anyway, yeah, they came from there. And they had the 3 different versions, like I mentioned, the Spirit, the Viscera, and the Soul Spike. In 5th edition, you know, Vola's Guide, the origin is they were created from demons by Orcus, so really aspiring demons. Orcus, who's basically the prince of undeath of the demons, will say, I'm going to turn you into a devourer, and I'm going to bring you back, and then I'll start you off with your initial trap soul, but another demon I'll pick out. And then when you get out into the plane, you know, out into the, you know, places of the other creatures, elves, dwarves, you know, humans, all that stuff, you can start picking up other creatures. I don't think that's nearly cool as much of an origin story that they were created from demons. I like more the either the vile murderers in 4th edition or the Githyanki, and you know, and I think that giving a little more mystery, I don't know, just created by Orcus just seems kind of like boring. However, the 5th edition did give it basically a big problem I have with 5th edition is most monsters have like claw bite, right? You know, I mean they have like just 2 to 3 melee attacks, and that's pretty much it. And no matter what kind of monster they are, it makes them pretty boring, in my opinion, pretty vanilla. I know a lot of people love 5th edition, so I'm not trying to knock it. I'm just saying it's a conservative game, folks. It's a conservative game. Let that sink in for a moment. Anyway, But they did give him this whole devour ability, but then they would spit it out. So in 5th edition, instead of like keeping the soul trapped and feeding off it, they would actually spit it out into another undead that could fight, which is okay. But I mean, I think mechanically it makes it more interesting for the fight, but really, because particularly for 5th edition, where the fights are pretty boring as far as I'm concerned. But I do like the idea better in the previous editions, where it would just continue, it would suck off this life form and use it to power its nefarious powers. Next up, I am going to talk about what I think is a pretty cool miniature. And when you hear the name, you may be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But here he is. You can see this guy has not 1, not 2, but 3 skulls. Yep, 3 skulls on his head. Of course, he's festooned with other skulls adorning the rest of his outfit. But those are just, decoration. These actual skulls here are part of him. Anyway, that is called the Skull Lord. Oh, yeah, okay. Well, I like this miniature a lot for the actual mini, because I think they did a good job of not making it look cheesy. I also enjoy it. It has a unique healing mechanic, where if the Skull Lord is going to be destroyed, he can like literally destroy one of his skulls and fully heal himself. It's kind of a nice little surprise for players. However, in actual play, when I was running the Skull Lord, if memory serves correctly, he went down. I don't think Undead have like a gender generally. He went down. It went down pretty quick. It was pretty squishy, but each skull had a kind of a cool power. In 4th edition, had a cool kind of power they could do as minor actions. So they could basically, each skull could take an action per turn. But one of the biggest, coolest things in 4th edition is one of the complaints, and rightly so, is that the monster manual, indeed most of the books that came out in 4th edition, originally there wasn't a lot of lore. There wasn't a lot of history and information. You can see, like, here's an example. Well, let me just show you the Skull Lord himself, since that's what we're talking about. Here's the stat block, right? You can see this is all stats, and then here is tactics, and then here's some lore, and then here's a little bit more lore continued, and then you get the encounter group. So you can see the stat block is the majority of it, and the lore is not that much. And then you can see the monster manual, like in 5th edition monster manual, the Skull Lord's not in the monster manual in 5th edition. But you can see, like, look, here's like a hag, right? And here's like the stats, but here's all this lore. Like, look at this whole page, right? Just talking about lore and stuff, and then you've got, another version of the hag, right? Down here, another stat block, but even more lore, right? I mean, another hag, and, even more lore. So you can see the monster manual here did a really great job of really, putting a lot of lore in there that was kind of missing from 4th edition, at least originally. But one of the things that's really cool is with the Skull Lord, if you get high enough on your lore check, it says the first Skull Lords arose from the ashes of the Black Tower of Vumerion. None can say whether they were created intentionally by the legendary human necromancer, Vumerion, or came forth spontaneously from the foul energies of his fallen sanctum. I mean, the Black Tower of Vumerion, and there the necromancer apparently fell, named Vumerion. I mean, to me, those two sentences have the potential for a whole campaign in them, right? And it's just a little bit of blurb in a book that generally is devoid of information. And I can't find any more information on Vumerion, but I think it's kind of a cool thing, because I think this means a DM reading that, and I didn't really pay attention to that when I was running the Skull Lord. I was doing more of a organized play adventure, so it was already kind of set what the whole thing was going on. But to me, like, you could really take that and run with it, right? And I think that is just such a cool thing in a book that otherwise generally doesn't have a lot of information. So kudos to someone, Wizards of the Coast, during the creation of 4th edition, for just throwing in a little kind of cool tidbit. And I would love to see more of that kind of stuff going on. Now, last but not least, this is what held me up, because I was looking all over my house for this miniature. This is a mini of Count Strahd von Zarovich. And in case you are not familiar, because perhaps you're not a D&D fan, or you're relatively new to D&D, Count Strahd von Zarovich is basically the preeminent vampire. He's like the Dracula of Dungeons and Dragons. He is the most famous, biggest vampire, you know, ever. It was created by Tracy and Laura Hickman in a sort of an interesting case where this was back in the day, like in first edition, when it's pretty common for DMs to have wandering monsters and stuff, and the DMs rolled in this table and rolled wandering monster vampire, and Tracy's like, that's weird. Like, vampires are like iconic, powerful, cool. They shouldn't just be a random vampire sitting in a dungeon. They should have stories behind them. And so that eventually spawned Rodmans Herbage. You know, there was a whole initial adventure about that. Yes, it was Advanced Dungeons and Dragons Adventure Module I6 Ravenloft. Went on to spawn its own D&D setting, Ravenloft. And there's too much history about Rodmans Herbage for me to do it real justice here. However, I did run for almost a year the 5e Curse of Strahd adventure right here. This really, I think the original adventure was pretty much just centered around the castle. And this adventure, I mean, this book is like 256 pages, right? It just really expands the whole land of the castle. I mean, the castle is pretty much the last place you want to go because your characters really need to go around and help right wrongs and, you know, power up and get to the place where they can actually face Strahd. There's like a map here, a smaller map of, you know, but there's whole like lands all around here. I think the castle is somewhere. Yeah, you can see the castle is just way up right there, and so it's all stuff to explore. So I had a lot of fun. Unfortunately, the group sort of kind of fell on some scheduling difficulties, and we didn't ever like finish it. But we got all the way to the castle. Like, we were literally inside the castle. Like, we had like 1 or maybe 2 sessions in the castle, and then we haven't played. But still a possibility. I still know all the people that were involved. They're still all alive, as far as I know, as of, you know, a couple days ago. So potentially we could get back. We could finish it. One of the cool things is when they first came out with this, they came out with this tarot deck, you know, Tarot deck of cards. So you can see I haven't even opened the deck yet. And the reason for that is when I first started running it, this deck wasn't released yet, right? And so I actually created my own cards. So I created my own Tarot deck of cards. Basically, I used you know, card sleeves, and then I used actually miniatures from the Pathfinder Adventure card game, old miniatures that got errated. And then I printed these cards out and stuck them in there and used them. And that's actually what I used for my players when they were going through this. And so I actually like my own cards better. I mean, you can kind of see these cards here, just because mine are a little bit, just a slightly bit bigger, you know. And I guess maybe because I actually created them myself, right? So it was a labor of love. Of course, I was a little suchness, so I just bought the other cards anyway, and now I've never used them. But perhaps, maybe someday I will sell them or, you know, give them away in a contest. Anyway, I will say, if you are into 5th edition D&D, The Curse of Strahd is a pretty cool adventure. It's got some pretty fun stuff going on. And in my own group, one of the players, he was basically basically playing a murderer, right? Kind of an evil murderer who was part of a monastic order, and he came serving his own needs. And throughout the thing, he kept on doing like things that was just gray to the point of like horrible. And the players kept on, the other players kept on going along with it, like not really. And one of them was a paladin, right? And I was like, are you guys just doing this because he's a player in the group, or do you not understand this, you know? And eventually, he found a dark power that he proposed a pact, and he accepted it, and he had to kill somebody. It was a non-player character, but he killed them in cold blood, and not right in front of the other player characters, but he became a vampire. And I thought, oh my God, once they find out he's a vampire, they're going to turn on him. And they didn't. That was not enough for them to like basically go, oh, this is too much. It was him actually, them getting in a fight that they finally had to like fight and turn away, and then he like left for Castle Ravenloft, and presumably is hanging out with Strahd right now as one of Strahd's minions, and we'll probably visit on the players. If we do revisit that campaign, he'll probably come back and probably kick some butt because he was a player character of equivalent level, and then he got all these vampire powers. So yeah, anyway, that happened. So one of the best things I will say about the undead is that they sit squarely on the bad, evil side of things. You can find exceptions, but overall, you don't get into any more morality tales about killing undead creatures. For example, I've seen this kind of happen and heard about it. It's like, oh, the players come across some goblins, and they kill all the goblins. Oh, and guess what now? Oh, sorry, taking a little break. My cute little dog, Lily. She wanted to say hi. There she is. Anyway, then they've got these baby goblins, and then the tale is, oh my God, you've got baby goblins. Do you kill them? I mean, if you don't kill them, aren't they going to grow up to be bad, evil goblins and doing nasty stuff? Or and you can get so derailed. It's kind of like the idea is like, oh, what if? I think there's a Twilight Zone or Outer Limits episode basically where his mom's giving birth and it's kind of touch and go, and turns out to be Adolf Hitler is like her baby, right? But people talk about that idea. Like, if you can travel back in time and you can find Hitler as a baby, would you kill him, knowing what's going to happen? And I mean, I'm not going to try to solve that problem right now. But what I will say in my D&D game is, I don't want to get involved in heavy morality tales about baby goblins, right? I want to kill the freaking goblin. So if I am in a game and the DM throws that baby goblin dilemma, they're all going to die, right? They're just all going to die. Sorry. I'm not playing D&D to mimic real life or to get into 20th century morality tales, right? To me, like, the D&D world is more closely based on the medieval world. It's more brutish and short, and you're stabbing people with swords and knives. You're not shooting with guns and stuff. I mean, it's brutal. Like, you're up there close and personal. And goblins are goblins, and they all die. All right, enough of my tangent there. Anyway, since no one guessed the name of last week's miniature, I'm ending that contest and going to reveal it right now. This is a dwarven werebear. And what I think is really cool is most of the times with these lycanthropes, werewolves, were-rats, they just say it's a were creature. They don't actually imply, and I think the default assumption is it came from human stock, right? But in this case, they specifically called out that it is a dwarven werebear. And one of the cool things is most lycanthropes in D&D tend to be evil, werewolves, were-rats, particularly chaotic evil. But the werebear is one of those typically is one of the atypical ones. It's normally good. So most werebears are actually good aligned. So I think it's kind of cool that a good aligned werebear would be a dwarf because, hey, dwarves are my favorite non-human fantasy race. Dwarves, they're awesome. Morgan Soulforge, my 4th edition paladin, played from 1st to 30th level until I retired. Totally awesome. Totally love him still. I could do episode up with Morgan's episode. Anyway, so it's a dwarven werebear. Getting a little carried away. And here's the hilarious thing. When I first looked at this thing of undead, I originally said, oh, this is all uniformly undead creatures. And then I went to pick out the one creature for this week's contest that I'm going to show off. And when I looked it up, this is actually not an undead creature. It is an aberration. And I will give you another clue. It is from the Eberron campaign setting. However, what I will say is it looks a lot like an undead creature. It looked a lot like an undead creature. Okay, come on, look at that thing. That thing is freakish. Freakish. Anyway, I still have my whole box of minis. You could win anything from a common to a huge rare miniature. So, send in your guesses into the comments field. Let me know what you think. And 2 weeks to do that, folks. 2 weeks. All right. Now, I am really committed to being on a weekly schedule, to not getting derailed anymore. All right. So thank you for watching another episode of What's Your Geek. Please subscribe to my channel. Leave a comment. Tell me what you liked, what you didn't like, and what do you think about morality tales in D&D? Do you think any baby ogres, baby trolls, baby goblins should just be slaughtered wholeheartedly, or would you enjoy having that morality tale of what do we do with these monsters? All right, man. Until next time, I completely need to roll a crit.